It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
What's happening, everybody? Yes, it is showtime. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are watching all over the planet. It is time for the Geno Jones Show, my daily variety show, Monday through Friday, right around 6:30 p.m. I'm coming to you just a little late. As a matter of fact, my guest today, barring any technical difficulties, I mean, we're still living in COVID, and we're still Zoom and all this wonderful technology, but sometimes it does this thing. Dr. Damon Arnold is going to join me today. He's been a frequent contributor to the Geno Jones Show. We got to talk about COVID, y'all. And to my brothers and sisters in America, we're going to talk about COVID. But first, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel. All right? Like, share, and subscribe. You feel free to copy the link. You can tag this episode, tag all my past episodes. Go back and binge watch to anybody, your friends, family, co-workers, church members, folks you don't like, neighbors, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Let them know this is the show. Tina Turner says simply the best. Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, there is my guest. He'll be joining me real soon. So like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel. I want to thank all my new subscribers. And thank, man, just the views, the time you guys are spending going back and binge watching. I really appreciate it. So support a black business owner. Support a small black business owner. Help a brother come up. Continue to tell everybody you know about the show. Continue to build the subscriber base that I have so a brother can come up and I can get some of that YouTube money. Them YouTube checks, because they're passing it out. So they are noticing that the Geno Jones Show is growing. So they said, all right, we see you coming. We got some checks waiting for you, but come on and get them numbers up a little bit. So, but it's a new show. We launched the show in October, so thank you once again. Like, share, and subscribe. Let everybody know. It's real simple. It's free. Just subscribe to my channel right here. If you would like to advertise, if you'd like to be a sponsor, I'd be honored to have you as a sponsor of the show or my channel. And if you're looking for the ultimate pitch man, I am the king, as I say. Not the king, not the king, the king pitch man. I'll give you my email address at the end of the show, so I need you to stick around. But right now, I want to get right into the show. So I saw President Biden speaking today, a couple hours ago. So listen, he is encouraging like governors, mayors, states, and cities to offer an incentive to people who have not gotten vaccinated. $100. And he said that the federal government will reimburse the states or city governments that basically offer a financial incentive. So now, if you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, here's some free money, $100. Okay? $100 to do something to save your life. I'll get into that commentary in a minute, but I just wanted to let you know, this was a couple hours ago, President Biden made that announcement. Also, he is requiring, so now listen, if you are a federal employee, if you work for the government, the federal government, or if you have a contract with the federal government, this is what is happening. The president has required federal workers to either get vaccinated or to get regular COVID test, and you're required to wear a mask. Now, you know, you've had these COVID tests, right? You know, as I adjust my brand new earpiece. They had that long swab, looks like a cotton, it is. It's like a cotton swab, but it's like a long one. Up your nose. That's worse, listen, because I've had, I think 3 COVID tests, 3 or 4. The swab and that long swab is worse than the vaccine. You don't even feel the shot. Trust me. And I'm more afraid of a needle than a gun, honestly. You pull a gun on me, I'll fight you. But needles, I don't do needles, but I did this COVID-19 vaccine. So really, I'm just telling you, you'll do better. It's quicker, and you know, it's 2 times if it's Pfizer or Moderna, it's one time if it's Johnson & Johnson. But if you got to get once or twice a week, if you have to get that swab, man, if you got to get that COVID test, that alone, I guarantee you, that alone, that's going to make a lot of people say, wait a minute, hold on, man. You're not going to keep sticking this long thing up my nose. Damn it, just go ahead and just get the needle and give me a shot. But sometimes that's what it's going to take. The Center for Disease Control says 50% of Americans, so here's the good news, relatively good news. The Center for Disease Control says 50% of all Americans are fully vaccinated. 47% of women, 43% of men. Now this is where it's heartbreaking, it's sad, and it's inexcusable. And it's not smart. It's suicidal, especially with this Delta variant. 31% of white Americans, only 31% of white Americans are fully vaccinated in America. 26% of Hispanic Americans are fully vaccinated. All right, to my brothers and sisters, yes, I got to go there. Only 23% of Black Americans are fully vaccinated. Let me say that again. Only 23% of African Americans are fully vaccinated. Now, remember, listen, this vaccine, it don't cost like $1,000. It's free. It's free. Within 5 miles, no matter where you live, there is probably someplace like a Walmart or Walgreens or a Kroger, Ralph's. There's some Publix, there's some supermarket or drugstore, CVS, within 5 miles of where you live. And the vaccines, these shots are free. 23% of Black Americans, only 23% are fully vaccinated. Cities like Chicago, only 35% of African Americans in Chicago are fully vaccinated. Here in South Carolina, here in the entire state of South Carolina, only 31% of African Americans are fully vaccinated here in the state of South Carolina. I was talking to a friend, the numbers in California are it's just heartbreaking. So we are at the bottom in terms of communities that are fully vaccinated. Really? And African Americans have been dying at 3 times the rate that white Americans have. So for every one white person that's dying of COVID, 3 Black people are dying of COVID. So I'm just gonna make it simple. I'm gonna break it down. All right, like your teacher did in math or algebra if you took it. For every one white American that's dying of COVID, 3 Black people are dying of COVID. So I'm gonna bring, once again, returning to the show, he is one of America's top public health and infectious disease experts here in the country. He's the former director for the Illinois Department of Public Health. He's a military veteran. He's a good guy. I call him the Black, well actually, initially, at first I was calling him the Black Dr. Fauci. But I said, no, I'm not gonna disrespect the brother. I should call Dr. Fauci the white Dr. Damon Arnold, my guest, who I'm bringing on camera right now. Dr. Arnold, hello,
Yes,
good
sir.
afternoon, my friend. It is good to see you. Always great to have you on the show. I was hoping, we hadn't talked in a couple of months. I was hoping that, we were gonna be doing good and the numbers were gonna be going in the right direction. And then when I did some homework, and then I saw the numbers of fully vaccinated people in America, and then I got the breakdown, and I saw the numbers of fully vaccinated African Americans, and honestly, Dr. Arnold, it broke my heart. So you heard the monologue. I'm gonna fall back, I'm gonna shut up, I'm gonna give you the mic and let you take the floor, start wherever you wanna start, and we'll just go there. I guess, what's the first thing that you would say to all Americans, but specifically considering the numbers that I just gave to the public? What would you have to say to our community?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important to realize is that, when you make the decision not to get vaccinated, it's not only affecting you, it's affecting your entire family, intergenerational wealth, because you can bankrupt your family. Even if you go to the hospital and you survive and you come out, those hospital bills will eat you alive. Going on a ventilator is not a cheap trip down to the grocery store in your car. That's a long time. A lot of care is needed, a lot of services. So even though people complain about the hospital bills, the kinds of level of care you need and expertise to bring you through so you still are breathing is really immense. I would also like to start off by telling people it's too late. You've seen stories where people were on ventilators and they were asking to be vaccinated. And it's like, that's not the right time to ask.
No, you're right.
You know, the right time to ask for help is not when you've been evicted and you're out in the street. It's when you actually have time to do something that'll prevent you from being evicted from life, and that's by being vaccinated. So I had to come across as real, and Gino, I think we were talking about this, and I was telling you about, one of the things that I have is like a checklist, right? And I've developed a checklist for those people if you absolutely do not want to be vaccinated. And these are the things I would tell you. Continue wearing a mask, wash your hands, and physically distance. Also, tell your family members you love them every day over the internet and make sure you have connectivity with them. Stay away from people with chronic diseases and children with cancer that you can actually infect and kill because of your lack of being able to, willingness to be vaccinated, because you can transmit the virus to people who are vulnerable and they can die. Also, make a list of all of your financial possessions and accounts.
Wow.
Make sure that's ready for your family. And then realize that the hospitalization medical costs could bankrupt your family into the future. It can actually take into everything you've worked for, your pension, your 401k plan, whatever savings you have, gone.
Wow.
So, why would you want to throw that stuff away? And then formalize your will and establish your do not resuscitate status now. Save your family and society and the medical providers that are taking care of you of the trouble of having to do this for you. So grow up, get some cojones, as they say, and take stock of what your choice is.
Wow.
This is a real talk. So I don't want to sugarcoat anything and say that, that there's this decision you're making as an adult about yourself, your children, and those people you take care of. And if that's the decision you're making, then there is an alternative that you will be facing. And I want to be upfront with you about it. If I were to do a surgical procedure or, practice medicine on you, I would have to give you what the odds of success are, right? And I could not do a procedure without doing that, discussing what the risk and benefits are.
Yes.
So these are the risk and the benefits of not getting a vaccination. And so those people who wish to not do it have to understand that there are people, Gino, my wife Sharon, and you all go back to school days, right? And and she was telling me she's looked up one of her friends, and she was walking on a pathway, and her friend was a triathlete, so she was like an avid runner, swimmer, jogger, bicycler, you name it. And really in great shape. So what ended up happening, she said, well, how are you doing? And she said, well, I haven't been doing that well. 5 months ago, I was offered the vaccine and I turned it down. And I thought, I'm really healthy. I can eat and I can do things that I need to do. And then a couple of months after that, she actually developed COVID-19, was on a ventilator for 1 month.
Wow.
As a result, when she came off the ventilator, the doctors told her, you survived this, but your lungs look like ground glass when we look at them on a chest x-ray film, which means they're almost like a Brillo pad. They can't expand. They are scarred for life.
Wow.
So she said, I can barely get around this track once. What a stupid decision I made. Now the rest of my life has changed forever. And that has also mental health implications about what kind of life you're going to live and what kind of things you'll be able to do, what kind of employment you'll be able to have. So it is a serious thing and it is nothing to joke around with. And when we say Delta variant, there's actually Delta variants. So there are at least 15 different types of Delta right now that are circulating. The reason why is because it's mutating still.
So let
And
me
this, yeah,
let me stop you there, Dr. Arnold, because I want everybody that's watching me right now, watching this show, I want to re-emphasize that point because I didn't know that. So we understood you had, I guess, Alpha, which was the initial, variant COVID-19 that hit us
correct.
back in March, February, March of 2020. And
Yeah.
then, in the media, we hear about this Delta variant. So we're like, kind of, okay, that's like, I guess, 4 times worse. But now, so you're saying that with this Delta variant,
Right.
there's 15 versions of that. Am
At
I
least.
correct? Did I get that right?
That's right, at least.
Oh my God.
And what that variant is able to do is to capture and to coalesce or bring together, fuse some of the cells in your body together, which is different from the alpha variant. It's 50 to 60% more able to be transmitted from person to person than the alpha variant. The alpha variant was about 50% more able to present, to spread the infection than the original Wuhan coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2 that we initially saw. So as this virus mutates, what ends up happening is it picks up different characteristics. It's sort of like if you went to into a martial arts studio, right, and you start learning different techniques, it starts to become more and more adept at fighting us. And so the longer we have people who are unvaccinated, they are petri dishes or places where bacteria can grow or viruses can grow. These are things that we use in a lab. So you become the vessel of making a more formidable opponent if you are not vaccinated. If you are vaccinated, your body will fight it and can extinguish it before it starts to mutate as rapidly. So the thing about the Delta variant, it came in about April of 2021 in India.
Yes.
And what that virus did was devastate India. It reached a peak. So April, May, June, July, it actually did not come back down until July. So from April to July, that thing went in, uncontrolled in India. You saw people with funeral pyres on the streets where they had no place to bring the bodies. All the morgues were overrun, and people had nothing but to hand someone a cup of water to ease their pain before they died.
Gee.
They had no oxygen. They ran out of oxygen and the things that we take for granted in this country. And actually, in the United States, we actually had a major mass decrease. We started with the vaccinations in December, and it went into January where we started really getting people vaccinated. Right. There was a dramatic decrease from January all the way down to April. It laid, sort of layered out about April because there's still resistance in the population with people getting vaccinated. But then Delta snuck in. So Delta started sneaking in, probably at the end of, somewhere around the end of, May, June, July. So we don't know exactly when, but we know that it was here for a while. And then all of a sudden, our curve started shooting back up again. So what we are seeing right now is that 99.6% of the people, approximately, who are hospitalized and die from COVID-19 right now are unvaccinated.
So let me stop. I apologize for interrupting, but
sure.
this is important. I've tried to stress this. So I was off by 1/10 of 1%. I've been saying the last numbers I saw, 99.7% of
Yes.
those that have been dying in America in the last couple of months were unvaccinated. So here is the public health and infectious disease expert once again, Dr. Arnold. Will you give them that number in terms of who has been dying in America from this, especially this new Delta variant of COVID-19? How many people who have died were unvaccinated as opposed to vaccinated?
The vast majority, 99.6, 99.7. We just know it's a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Those
Oh no,
are
your
that
numbers probably sounds right because I got that number a couple of weeks ago. So you
that's
got
fine.
yeah, but
Yeah, and numbers are kind of, they go up and down, they go up and down. But what we are not seeing, which is really the important part, is that people who have been fully vaccinated aren't showing up in the hospital. They're not being put on ventilators. They're not dying at the rate of the people who are unvaccinated. That is a stark, stark difference.
so let
I
me
mean,
ask you. Let's talk about the folks who are hospitalized.
right.
You can give me that number. The last number I heard, I think, was it 90? I heard some number somewhere around 94 to 95% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated. So how accurate is that number?
Oh, that's probably very, very accurate. And when they say unvaccinated, they also include people who are partially vaccinated.
Okay.
So if you only got one dose of Moderna or Pfizer, you need to get your second dose. That's the first thing. You need to be fully vaccinated. The Johnson and Johnson was one dose. And then what we're looking at right now is there's some people who, especially what we're keeping an eye on, is that people who are elderly have a thing called anergy. And that is when you have a decrease in your ability to form an immune response when you're presented with something like an antigen, which is a vaccine, right? So you may not be as efficient, as effective as forming this kind of thing. So they're looking at this still in that population. People are still very effective. It is still very, it's very safe. And if you look at the populations of people who have chronic diseases and people who have underlying immunocompromised cancers and those sorts of things, they are really susceptible. Those people who are on renal dialysis, according to a CMS report, Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services Administration, they actually are 11 times more likely to be hospitalized than the general population. So those people should definitely be vaccinated.
And for those who may not know what the doctor means, he said renal dialysis, of course, kidney dialysis, like those on chemotherapy, those who recently received an organ transplant, wouldn't they fall in that category, Dr. Arnold?
Yeah, yes, people who are more at risk, and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, ACOG, one of the things they recommend is that for women who are pregnant to get vaccinated. And one of the numbers I heard, and I'm not sure of how widespread this study was, but I'm still looking for the data. But there was a report that came out that said that about only 11% of women who are pregnant were willing to get vaccinated. And they had one woman, I think, in the report who was saying that I got vaccinated because I want to be able to pass on protection to my child because the baby is being born and, they only have the immunity that the mom gives them. And it's hard for babies to develop immunity early on. It takes time for their body to kick in and start developing immunity. So the antibodies that come from the mom, the proteins that help to protect us, that the vaccine actually causes to be created, are not able to be created in a baby if they get a natural infection that early on. So that's something that is really, really important to recognize.
So let me understand, in case there's a woman that's pregnant, or maybe a man, his fiance, his wife, or his significant other, they're about to have a child. The advice, of course, you would say talk to your individual doctor, but
Correct.
is the data showing that for those pregnant moms who are fully vaccinated, some of those antibodies, because I thought I heard that, I don't know if it was Dr. Fauci, I thought I heard one of the medical experts say they had seen in some cases, I don't know if it was here in the States or overseas, there was some examples of antibodies that were in the mom that they noticed in the child once she had her baby.
Yeah,
Have you?
that's right.
So that is correct. Okay, so there's
Yeah,
there's
that is
there's
correct.
data on that. Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is that, and what that's called is passive immunity.
Okay.
So, in the past, we used to give, and sometimes even not gamma globulin and things like that. So it's actually pooled antibodies. So that was the theory behind people who actually had COVID-19. When they'd be recovering, they would collect their serum and then they give those antibodies to another person that was sick.
Right.
So it's the same thing. It's called passive immunity because your body doesn't actually develop those antibodies. It comes from outside. So in the placenta, when the baby is in the uterus, the mom's blood actually allows, circulates and it passes on the antibodies to the baby's circulation, to the baby's blood. So the baby is protected when it's born. So the baby it could expose to, viruses and bacteria and all the other stuff outside. That would be dangerous, first of all,
Yeah.
So so God really made us really well, so the mom actually passes and confers that immunity to the baby, but the antibodies last for a certain period of time, 6 months, up to, different theories, 9 months, a year, but they last for a certain amount of time as the baby's, immune system starts to develop and gets used to the outside world and the environment once it's born. And so one of the other things about this Delta variant that's really different is not just that it spreads faster, but it has about 1,000 times as many virus particles in your body as with the Alpha variant.
Wow.
So that means that you're being overrun. If you had an army of one before, now you have an army of 1,000 that's attacking your body. And so this actually, we talked about this before, about how it affects the blood vessels. There is now, Mayo Clinic has been putting out information on how it affects the heart muscle, how it causes small embolisms or blockages in the very small blood vessels in the heart. So it can have long-term consequences if you do get COVID-19. It also, they've been also talking about its effects on the central nervous system. It's been how it affects the kidneys and can accelerate kidney damage and disease, and also the liver. So this thing is a multi-organ system offender. The lungs, we know that it actually destroys lung tissue. And so even if you come out of having COVID-19 because you were not immunized, we don't know how that's going to affect your long-term outcome as far as the production of chronic disease that you'll have to deal with.
So finish that statement, and then I got some. I'm gonna try to do some rapid fire questions because there's some important things that I want to get out. But I want you to finish your statement right there.
Yeah. So protecting yourself against chronic disease, especially if you already have high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease, lung disease, and for example, in Chicagoland area, we have 6 times the national average of asthma, and that's one of the risk factors. If you try to go on a ventilator, I've been speaking to ER docs and intensivists who say, it's hard to get people off of those ventilators. Once they go on, if they have asthma. So that's not just peculiar to Inglewood and Chicago, it's national. We have, especially people of color, communities of color, exposed to environmental, hazards and those kinds of things. And also, higher prevalence of disease within our community. We have got to protect ourselves. 23%, as you were mentioning before, is not enough, and it's 1/5 of the people who should be vaccinated are. We need about 80% for herd immunity. We talked about that before. We're at the other end of the spectrum, 80% non-protected, which makes no sense whatsoever with an effective and safe vaccine.
That's free. It's free.
Yes, it's free.
So
Yes.
3/4 of Black Americans, and this number, and I'm beating this. I am beating this number over and over because I'm trying to drill it in everybody's head, and it's not about scaring you, but at this point, Dr. Arnold, my attitude is by any means necessary. If some folks have to be scared into getting the vaccine, if some you can reason with, if some you can present facts and data, if you got to pay some folks, it's whatever we have to do, because if 3 out of every 4 Black Americans, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, 23%, that means 3 out of every 4 Black Americans are unvaccinated.
Yeah.
18
So
months later, I can't, it's blowing my mind. So can we just, and
yeah.
you've heard some, because, okay, a couple of the myths. If you go to the barbershop or the hair salon, man, they putting a microchip, man, ain't it? The government trying to put a microchip in there, or they rushed this vaccine. They developed it too quick. And you addressed both of those, but I just want you to please just dispel this foolishness and these myths that's been on social media or certain other news outlets, and it's really killing. So 3 out of 4 Black Americans are unvaccinated, and Black Americans are dying at 3 times the rate of white Americans.
Oh, yes. And one of the things to be careful about with these statistics, too, is that there was a report from the CDC, and they were saying about 38% of the information that they have on vaccinations is actually lacking racial or ethnic data points. So the data that we're working on is actually not as accurate as people think as far as racial groups that are being vaccinated. So that's one word of caution. The data is still really has gaps and is incomplete. And one of the things that goes along with that is that we have to make sure that people understand that when we're talking about this disease, that they can be actually very it can be very indolent. In other words, it can start causing things that you're not even aware is going on in your body. Wow. And one word that's a little bit encouraging, we did see the number of people who are at least partially vaccinated go from 34.2 to 36% in the African American community. So it's about a 1.8% increase recently.
Okay, that's there in
so
Chicago.
People may be turning. Yes,
that's
this is national.
Oh, national.
This is
okay.
national.
Okay, good.
This is national.
Okay.
And then if we look at Hispanics, it went from 39.2 to 40.7. So they are actually taking advantage of it more than African Americans. And then Asian Americans, guess what their number is? 61.9%, and it increased to 64.6%. Yeah. Now, if you look at white population, it's 46.8, and it went to 47.7. So that's 64.6% for Asians, 47.7% for whites, 40.7% for Hispanics, and 36.0% for blacks.
That with at least one shot.
At least
not
one
fully
shot.
vaccinated, partially vaccinated.
Partially vaccinated.
So let's go down these again. I just wanted to get these in, but if there's a point you feel that you need to go back to, please do that, because I've heard it so much, and I know you hear it all the time. Well, I just, especially because it seems like the generation Z and your millennials seem to be the most hesitant right now. Well, listen, man, they're gonna put this vaccine, the government's putting a microchip in your body. They rushed it. It came this thing ain't ready. They made it too fast. Please speak to that.
Yes, and this is the thing. First of all, the technology for making the vaccine's been around for at least 25 years now. All right. So we used it for SARS-1, which is the one we ran across before. So we've seen these viruses before. Also, the coronaviruses are the things that cause common colds and that kind of thing. Also, we used it for MERS, which is the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, some years ago. And actually, when President Obama was in, we used it for against Ebola, the same technology. And luckily, they were able to contain and stop that. That's why the CDC needs to get more funding and HHS needs to get more funding. They stopped a deadly disease that could have killed countless numbers of people in this country if they had not stopped that. We sometimes don't think about, the implications of stopping things before they become so devastating. So another example now is that we're still seeing people die from a disease they don't need to die from. We see tens of thousands of people dying still from COVID-19 when we have a solution, a vaccination, a vaccine that can stop you from going into the hospital and dying. So that's one thing, is that the technology has been around. The scientists all around the world have been looking at this. In the phase trials, the phase 1, 2, and 3 trials, they followed the same scientific principles you would follow with any development of any vaccine. It was unfortunate that they used the term warp speed, which is really, is really an incorrect term in the prior administration. Actually, what they have been doing is they had been looking at this vaccine very intently, studied it like more than any other vaccine in history, and understand what it is and what it does. They were surprised about the efficacy of it because they were saying maybe we get to 50%, 52%. When it came back with 97%, they were like, whoa, this thing is really going to save a lot of lives. And by the way, the measles vaccine is about 97% effective. It's the gold standard for vaccines. So it's not unusual to have something that efficacious. And that has the polio vaccine also has stopped us from seeing polio, eradicated that in this country. And historically, if we go back in time, we actually were using variolation in Africa for centuries, 1,000 years, going back 1,000 years. It was used, and what that was is they would take some smallpox and they would actually stick you with a little piece of metal, and it was a little bit more dangerous then because it was when they were just starting to use the live virus. We don't use that anymore, but they actually conferred immunity and saved countless of hundreds of thousands of millions of lives over the years.
So let me stop you there. So understand what Dr. Arnold's saying, that this whole concept of vaccines was actually created in Africa long before the transatlantic slave trade, which is a whole nother thing. So vaccines have been around for centuries.
Yes. And they actually use it for snake venom as well, protecting children against snake bites. So they'll give them a very small amount of venom, and stick their skin with it. And they would develop immunity because we use antibodies now even to try to treat snake bite wounds, right? So this is something, and Onesimus was a slave of. He was actually with Cotton Mather in Boston back in 1700, and he taught them about how to do this technique, and it saved tens of thousands of lives before the American Revolution.
Wow.
He may have actually saved the origins of this country by training them on how to do this technique. A lot of things are being suppressed, of course, historically, that we need to be bringing out more and more of what the real origin of, the origin of the number 0 started in the Middle East.
Right. So around what century were those vaccines first developed in Africa? Do you have a
it was like thousands of years ago, because one of the things that and it was variolation, but it was the Cairo library in Cairo, Egypt was the largest library in the world at that time. It had more scientific information and medical research and those things than anywhere else in the world. Actually, the first ventilator was actually created in Cairo, Egypt, in Africa.
Wow.
Historically. So we've been part of science for a very, very long time. You can go to, start looking at people like Dr. West, she invented the basis for GPS, tracking systems
Yes.
with a global model. And you can look at, people like Ernest Everett Just, the most published biologist, who was a cell biologist, in vitro fertility. All that stuff was based on his work. And you can look at Charles Drew with the blood banking. So, so many, many, many scientists, too many to talk about, hundreds of thousands over the years, even in this country, coming out of slavery. They were able to show that still had creativity and genius despite, oppression. So, I reach out to people because I say, talking about microchips in a vaccine, I tell
I
them
shouldn't laugh, but it's just
credit
some of
card.
this. I'm sorry, Dr. Arnold. Some of this is just, it's like, really, dude, are we really doing, are we having this conversation? And I tell people, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, the government, they've injected a microchip, not in your body, in your hand. This is the microchip right here.
Right.
Anything and everything that anything they want to know about you, stuff that you have no idea they know about you, we voluntarily give it to them when we download all these apps on this phone. So there's your microchip. So if you don't want to have a microchip implanted in your body, put your phone down, take the battery off out of it, cut the phone off. Yeah, that'll get rid of the microchip. But I'm sorry, Dr. Arnold.
Yeah, because when my phone pings and says, "Hey, there's a vegan restaurant a block from you," or "There's a smoothie shop down the block," I'm like, "What? How do you know I'm here?" They are following you. So if you think that, that they're trying to put a microchip in, they wouldn't waste the money because they already got you.
Right. And how would that be in liquid? How would they have a microchip? How could they liquefy it and inject? Okay.
Yeah, it's just myth, and people, and one of the things that I worry about too is that sometimes you not only have misinformation, but you have a thing called disinformation.
Yes.
And disinformation is when people are intentionally giving you information that is harmful to you, and they know it. So be very careful about what people are saying to you. There's scammers out there who will tell you that I have the cure for this, this little pill that I can give you around the corner in the back alley at 12:30 at night. Don't take it.
Yeah.
Go and look at the science. As we say, science says,
And wouldn't, Dr. Arnold, let me jump in. Wouldn't somebody, I think it was some scam artist, I don't know if they were out of Florida, they were peddling something that had some form of chlorine or bleach in it, that if you took it, it would just knock COVID out of your body. You probably heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a person who was in the highest office in the land talking about putting beams into your body of light, and and everyone in the background was cringing.
And injecting bleach. I guess that's what people got it from. He was going to say,
right.
Can you inject Lysol or bleach into the?
Yeah, and it's just insanity. That pretty much goes along with Himmler, what he would have wanted to try to do in Nazi Germany as an experiment on people.
Yeah.
This craziness. So, but one of the things I always say is that, remember, science never asks for you to believe in it, but is incredibly unforgiving if you do not.
I love
so
it.
you can walk up the edge of a cliff, and gravity cares not a bit, and whether you believe or not. But at the bottom of the cliff, if you survive, you may become a believer. And what we don't want is you to be at the bottom of the cliff on a ventilator asking to be vaccinated when you should have done it before.
I couldn't have said it any better.
It's too late.
Yeah, absolutely.
And after you get off the ventilator, actually, and you recover, if you do, then what the medical community will tell you to do is you still need to get vaccinated, because natural immunity may not confer the same kind of protection, and it does not confer the same kind of protection as being vaccinated. So this is really, and we have a lot of anti-vaxxers out there now doing protests in New York and all that kind of thing. And I had, I was a director, as you were mentioning, for public health. And I remember, at that point, my mantra, and it came out, we were talking about it when I was over, working with the CDC and Institute of Medicine and talking about different issues on H1N1 at that point. It was the issue of in God we trust. All others bring data. So, I don't want to trust your word. And I think Reagan even said,
Trust but
trust
verify
but verify.
to the Russians. Yeah.
Right.
I'll trust you when I can first. Let me verify it. Then, we can talk about trust.
Right. Right.
So let me jump in. I'm gonna try to do this rapid fire, but you share so much great knowledge and you're so generous with your time. I'm really grateful. I want to talk about the need for a booster. So I'll just give you a hypothetical. It's really not so much a hypothetical. My mother, who's there in Chicago, who's a big fan of yours, is I know that's watching right now. I'm looking to see, so I know she's at least she's on. You have someone in their 70s. Your mama has among main things COPD and,
Okay.
and with lupus, so she's really immunocompromised. She had her second vaccine. She got the double Pfizer, I believe, somewhere around late January, maybe early February. So, and I hear this in debate. President Biden said, I guess as of now, I guess the CDC isn't recommending that people said, no, they don't need to get a booster. But with these variants, I'm concerned with someone like my mom. Would you recommend people because people in her age group with her health profile are at the highest risk? So what would you recommend to someone like that in terms of when and if? Because then when you talk about 6 months out, because she's almost 6 months out from her second vaccine, what honestly would you tell a patient or your family, your mom or dad, if they were in that situation? What would you recommend they do?
Okay, yeah. Well, one of the things that Pfizer had mentioned, and it's approximate numbers about, I think there was 96% effective, initially, 96.6 or whatever, but it's about 96% effective. And what they found is that it actually decreased, and that's why they were recommending a booster dose to about 84%. But what they found, what the current feeling is, from what I've been hearing and reading from the CDC and science, we have to trust the science. But what they're saying right now is that it looks like this vaccine is still very, very safe, effective. So still efficacy wise, it will still keep you out the hospital and off of a ventilator.
Okay.
So they don't want to rush forward with recommending a booster dose at this point. But what they're doing is still collecting data on it, still looking at the numbers. But from what they see so far, you're still very, very protected. What my recommendation to everyone would do is to follow, is what President Biden said. Follow the science.
Okay.
Follow the data.
Okay.
And he actually said, which I thought was one of his strongest statements and very, very wise. He said, don't listen to me. Listen to the scientists, the people who have the expertise. And that's when you have someone who has wisdom. You can have a team, and you can put a team together and put them on a football field, on a basketball field. But you have point guards, you have tacklers. Let the people who have the expertise in that area work for the team. And so he is. Thank goodness we have a transition in mindset in Washington, D.C. about this whole thing, because it was a nightmare before for scientists and people who were trying to get across the messaging. So I would trust the messaging coming out, listen to what is coming from the CDC, from Dr. Fauci, who's an ACIP, making sure that we are following good advice, and that is the logical advice to follow. And when you were saying boosters, you can have boosters for the current dosage, but there's also a question of another vaccine, and what we say is a booster of a different type, and it's when we start talking about all these variants that are coming out. So right now we know that the vaccine is effective against all of the variants. Even the Delta is keeping people out of the hospital with the Delta who are fully vaccinated. Now, you can have what we call breakthrough.
Yes, talk about that. Yeah, talk
infection.
about that.
Yeah, and breakthrough infection means that you still can develop the infection, but it is much milder in form than if you had had the full-blown COVID-19.
Hmm.
You can still be kept out of the hospital off a ventilator. There is a small percentage of people who are not fully vaccinated or who have other immune problems that are, more severe, where they're really very sick to begin with, that end up in the hospital who have been vaccinated. So, nothing is ever foolproof. But I'm telling you, I would rather have 99% on my side than have zero.
Yeah, yeah, then point six. Yeah, sign
That
me up
point.
for the 99%, and you can take your chances with the point six. If someone is nervous, especially in some of our seniors who are more immunocompromised, and they go out and just on their own say, okay, look, I'm gonna go to the drugstore and I want to get another COVID shot. Get another shot with Pfizer or Moderna or J&J. Would it do any harm?
Well, we don't know.
Okay.
See, and I see, like I said before, in God we trust. All of this bring data. So as a pure scientist, I can't say yay or nay
Because you haven't
because
seen the data.
the
Gotcha.
data, the evidence is in what we know and what's out there. So that is something they're probably looking at very, very closely right now. And right now, one of the things that really needs to be done is that, and what I'm concerned about is, as mentioned before, the Delta variant is about 1,000 times more viral particles in the body, and it causes cells to associate and fuse together so it can pass from cell to cell. So we have to be careful about what are the long-term consequences of getting infected, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing that's the most of concern to me. So for children who are going back to school, I recommend that you get them vaccinated, down to the age of 12. They probably going to have guidance coming out not too far in the future about children who are less than 12,
I was just about
and
to ask you about that because the
vaccinated.
president did stress that, hey, listen, if you got children 12 and up, parents, please get them vaccinated now. But what would you
Yes.
recommend? Because that's a serious problem as of now. And two part, when do you think that I guess the FDA, when will we have enough information to where the CDC or the FDA will be comfortable enough to say, okay, now we've got the data. Uh, if children under 12, it's safe for them to get the vaccine. And I know you can't really rush that process, but what are you seeing, or what are you're educated a guess in terms of how soon will it be before children under 12 will be able to get vaccinated?
Yeah, I think that really is in the hands of ASIP, and that is, a group that actually is looking at immunization practices on a
And what's the name of that
national.
again? Give us,
Oh,
please.
ACIP.
And who is that? What's that acronym? What is that? What does the acronym stand for?
Okay, and that's the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which Dr. Fauci is a member of.
So it's a
So
group of experts, and this is what they've done all their life. Like you
right,
could be on there, and you all look at all the data, and you've
right,
got enough data over enough period of time. I'm just trying to really simplify it for people watching. To be like, okay,
yes,
we've got all these trials. We've been studying these people for a year now, kids.
right.
Because I don't. When did they first start the trials? They started some of the trials. I don't think they started the trials for the kids under 12 until when? That was the last group. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the ones for those who were less than 18, so 12 to 18 started in January
Okay.
time frame, and they started these other trials more recently. But
Okay.
what they're finding is that it's very effective in these kids. It's even actually more effective in children because their immune systems are still revving up. So if I try to go and do a layup, my nephew will probably get there before I get there.
Jump a
So
little high.
and
Yeah.
make it. So these young people have more of a robust immune system,
Well, that's great
and
news.
yeah. So hopefully this is going to work out really well for them. I'm just really hopeful that people become immunized, and if they go back into school and things aren't available, I'm on the side of caution. I'm an internist, but people like Fauci and the people who are with ACIP and with the CDC, many of them are infectious disease specialists, and they actually do a lot of the research around this. And part of the recommendations coming out from the CDC, I think people should not become confused. The Delta variant is a new change. So as things change, if you were driving down the road and, a cat jumped in front of your car, it makes you turn a little bit this way. If you get to the street light and it doesn't work, you have to treat it like a stop sign. If you go down the block and a storm starts and you start getting hail, you go inside a garage, right, to protect your car. So that's why these changes are happening, because things are changing. It's not a static thing where you say, oh, well, how are you going to fix my motor, right, in my car? It's changing. So they have to make the recommendations based on the science and what they're seeing. So getting that mask back on, it could be essential indoors, and then also when you go into school.
I'm glad because you triggered, because I had so many questions in my head, and some will come and some will leave, but you really answered it. As they say, I'm running it back. I'm running that question back. I'm rewinding it, because I was going to ask you, because here's the complaint. One of the complaints I've been getting. Well, see, they rushed it. If the government is under this emergency, a low knowledge, like you said, can be dangerous. Well, because it's under this emergency, what is it? Emergency use or authorization use. I'm trying to get the correct term. If the FDA fully approved it, then it would be one thing. But since this vaccine is being issued under some emergency order or use, then I can't really trust it, because we don't really know what's in it and what's wrong. How come the FDA is taking so long to go ahead and give it the full approval? I'm sure you heard that. Could you speak to that?
Oh, sure, yeah, and what I say to that too is that no one turned down that emergency use money. When they said we're going to put the money in your bank account, you're like, okay, the government says so.
That's the drop the mic, boy. I could just fade to black, walk off the set, man, let you go home. That is the line for the show. He said nobody turned down. Right, none of y'all turned down that emergency use money. So don't turn down this emergency authorization use vaccine. I could.
Right. And I was speaking to my nephew, and I was talking to him. He said, "I don't trust the federal government. I don't trust the government," and that kind of thing. And I was in the military for 26 years, a retired Army National Guard person. And I told him, I said, "Do you brush your teeth in the morning?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you use toothpaste?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "What's on the label of your toothpaste thing? Doesn't it say FDA on there? Food and Drug Administration?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "That's a federal agency. So you trust them to make your toothpaste every day? You've been using it every day." So what is this problem with this federal government? And, and when they put this thing out, emergency use, because if your house was on fire and a fire department came up there with a hose and they said, "We're going to put the fire out with this thing that we need to use to put the fire out because it will stop it from burning." And you're like, well, has that been an emergency? This is an emergency, but has that been approved, that water yet? You're like,
no, you're going to grab the hose and help them out. Like, man, get another hose.
Yep.
We need some more of that.
Get more water. Why is it so
I don't know what it
more
look
water?
funny. It's a different kind of color. It smell funny, but if it put the fire out, come on.
Right.
Let's use it.
And the thing too is that many people say, "Well, I'm going to wait and see." Well,
Yes.
So far, over 300 million doses of the vaccine have been given, and guess what? I'm still here.
I'm still here.
You're
My
still
mother,
there.
my
Your
sisters,
mom is still here.
my wife,
who's a wonderful
my
woman,
daughters.
wonderful lady.
Your family.
Yes. So everyone is still here, and no one's grown 3 eyes, and it's limping around.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel better than I did before the vaccine, because now I can breathe easily, knowing that I have something in my body that's going to protect me against this virus. If you don't, and you haven't taken the vaccine, you better be worried.
Yeah.
Because this Delta variant is spreading fast. And we're seeing more hospitalizations. We're seeing more people die from this thing. And if you want to take that gamble, as I said, I gave you that checklist in the beginning. Get your do not resuscitate order in place, get your finances in place, don't infect anyone else with, have respect for other people, and make sure that, you're ready to suffer the consequences of making a poor decision. And that's all I can say to you, and making it real.
And let me
This
just,
year.
and if I can, Dr. Arnold, to add to that list, what Dr. Arnold is telling y'all, you need to make sure your life insurance policy is up to date and current.
Yes.
You need to do that,
Yes.
because don't be out here not wearing a mask, don't want to get a vaccine, and then something happen to you, you get sick, and then you die, and you ain't got no insurance, and then what? Then you gonna burden your family, so it's gonna be bad enough that they lost you, and then nobody got money to bury you behind. So,
That's right.
man, don't get me started. So
Yeah.
get it together. Dr.
And,
Damon Arnold.
and you lose that Social Security too.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay. Listen
So-
listen to the doctor, ladies and gentlemen.
So
Dr.
if
Arnold.
you want to help the government,
Yeah, really. Man, you are a godsend and a blessing and a source of not just education, data. Like I said, you've got the receipts in medical field as a doctor and working with infectious diseases for decades. But you got the demeanor. And today, I love you. Really, man. You kept it all, as the kids say in the streets, all the way real. Okay, so you could play this episode. You got a nephew, or you got a niece, or you got a sister or brother. Maybe you got a son or daughter or grandchild, and they say hard head makes. My grandmother didn't curse. She would say a hard head would make a soft behind. And the days that my mother, if we made my mother mad, she'd be like, okay, a hard head is gonna make a soft ass, so you need to listen. So, and it could cause you or somebody that you love. We've seen whole families being wiped out, dead. Grandparents, parents, kids, grandkids. So this is nothing to play with. Dr. Arnold, thank you so much. I'll reach back out. Listen, I enjoy our conversations. I hate they have to be on this. So I'm glad to get you back on the show, but I was really hoping that these numbers turn around. And I'm going to, because, I'm a glass half full guy. So I'm going to speak into existence that people are going to listen to people like you, doctors like you, and I wanted to get you. So this knowledge is for everybody. But when I saw the data, that it was our community, 23% of black people. I'm going to repeat that because I want that point to really just slap you upside your head. 23% of black Americans, only 23% of black Americans are fully vaccinated. 31% of white Americans. 26% of Hispanic Americans. So those numbers are not good, but our numbers are worse, and we are dying at 3 times the rate of white Americans. So every one white American that dies, 3 black Americans. We cannot afford not to be vaccinated. Not just for ourselves, but for our family members. Like you said, that grandparent or that parent that maybe on chemo or just recently got off chemotherapy or some type of cancer drug, or maybe on dialysis or diabetic or an immunocompromised disease, maybe an MS or lupus, or you could have a child with asthma, or you have children with childhood cancers or transplant organs that they can't get vaccinated. We got to protect them. Am I right?
Absolutely. We've got to protect everyone, and the chronic disease, people with chronic diseases have to make sure they protect themselves fully. And the best way to do that, I analogize this to a dam, where someone has their finger in the dam, and your finger in the dam is the public health measures you have, wearing a mask, physical distancing, and making sure that you, wash your hands. But, that crack in that dam, the way to repair the dam and to fix it is to get vaccinated. Yeah. That is the ultimate thing. Because that plague can still, the pandemic can still come through that crack. Yeah. So we have got to repair and eliminate that crack.
Forget the crack. We got to fix build a whole new sidewalk. Dr. Damon Arnold. Dr. Arnold, do you have a website, or if people have a question, maybe they want to leave you a message on your website, or just give us your social media handles and platforms?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I do one show, a radio show, America's Heroes Group, is on Saturdays, WVON, on from 4 to 6
Oh,
on
great.
Saturday.
Okay. All right. That's in
That
Chicago. Okay.
group, but they can, if they send information to you, you can always get it to me,
Okay.
and then I can, get that to
Great.
answer questions.
So that's great. So as I close the show, in the comments section, give us feedback. I'm sure there'll be some haters and some trollers out there with some foolishness. So I'm rebuking y'all. All right. The devil's gonna be busy. I get that. But if you have any questions, concerns that you would like to address, or you would like for me to ask Dr. Arnold, just leave it in the comments section. I'll reach out to Dr. Arnold. I'll check and make sure when he's got some time. If I see if there's a series of questions, then that would be the next episode, Dr. Arnold. I'll have them written out. Just here's a question from so and so here, and they got a question. Here's a question from somebody else in their location. So thank you. We can't thank you enough, because our goal, and you and I have talked about it on camera and off camera. My goal is to use this platform. Yes, I'm an entertainer. I entertain. I make you laugh. Yes, I'm a comedian, a motivational speaker, media personality. But I want to use this platform at the end of the day to educate, to inform, to inspire, and to now use it to save lives, and to bring experts that look like you and me, that understand you and me, that understand, our culture. And yes, people talk about, remember the Tuskegee, they experimented on us, and Dr. Arnold educated me. So the whole Tuskegee experiment was, the government didn't inject black men with syphilis. The government denied black men who had syphilis, basically lied to them, told them that, yes, we are treating your syphilis, but they didn't treat it. Am I right?
That's right. So they withheld penicillin. And if you want to be put in the same position as, they were never injected with syphilis as a myth. They were just studied. So it was a cohort study, where they found these people who had syphilis and did not treat them down in Tuskegee, Alabama. And these men of color suffered, their families suffered, because it was passed on to other generations, congenital syphilis, passing on to children. So the thing that we have to really look at is that if you turn down the vaccine, it's like putting yourself in the same position they were in without receiving a treatment that can save your life.
And here's the sad irony, and I'll close on this, I promise. In that situation, Dr. Arnold, the government, they were denying black men treatment. Today, too many 3 out of 4 black Americans are denying themselves treatment. There's free treatment to save our lives, and we are denying it. Where before we were denied the life-saving drugs. Today, we are denying ourselves free access to free life-saving drugs.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold. I appreciate you so much. Send my love to the entire family, and I always love having you on the show. Like I said, you are a fan favorite, man, and you. I had to shout out to, because I got this phrase from another brother who's a legend on satellite radio, Joe Madison. I had to give credit where credit is due. I wish I could claim this phrase. I got a lot of them from my grandparents, but this is one I guess he got from an ancestor. He said, "You put it where the goats can get it." you explain it the way if they can't understand it after you break it down, then just pray for them.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Geno, and a shout out to your mom, who is a wonderful woman, because she has a fabulous son.
Well, listen. Well, thank you, and I know her and my baby sister, because she was over there the other day. So they're like, "Hi, Dr. Arnold. Tell her and Angela, like, tell Sharon we said hi and her sister and her
All right.
so, because like I said, they've known, your wife and my baby sister went to the same high school. So,
Okay, yeah.
the
Okay,
families
yeah.
have known each other for a long time. So my mom is a huge fan, but she's a fan of yours now. So you probably have a lot of like surrogate moms, so you got another one now.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dr. Arnold. Oh man, the brother's awesome. So I don't need to say anything else. Just rewind and press play. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. out in Los Angeles on the West Coast. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's free. Like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones channel on YouTube. Copy the link. Copy this link, paste it. You can share this episode. Go back and binge watch all my previous episodes on my YouTube channel. If you would like to advertise, if you'd like to be a sponsor, I would love to have you. I'd be honored. And if you're looking for the ultimate pitch man to build your brand, your business, your goods, or your service, I am the king of pitch man. You hear what I said? Not the king. The king of pitch man. Geno Jones Show. That's how you spell it. Geno Jones Show at Gmail. All right. Shout out to Bruce Gage and Alexandria Jones, wardrobe consultants and stylists for the Geno Jones Show. Lexi_Nicole on Instagram, or Alexandria Jones. You can just search Bruce Gage, Gage, and shout out to Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. He is on Instagram, Kelby Cutting Up, KELBECUTTINUP. I love each and every one of you. Mother, I love you more than life itself. Thank you. This has been a longer than normal show, but this information is important. This information is to save your life. And I wanted to take advantage and thank Dr. Arnold. He's a very busy doctor. You can imagine people are calling him from all over. So thank you once again to Dr. Damon Arnold for your generosity, your time, your wisdom, your knowledge, your science, your data, your truth, and your facts. All right, everybody. Tomorrow we kick off the weekend. It'll be a week in review. Friday, not Friday. I say Friday, like yeah, it's Friday. Friday edition of the Geno Jones Show. 6:30 p.m. live, right here. 6:30 p.m. Eastern live, right here on my YouTube channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, for sharing, for liking, subscribing, and as always, be blessed.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.